What if the greatest threat to your growth is not your enemies, not your circumstances, and not your past, but the comfort of being the victim? Because by the end of this episode, you're going to see something uncomfortable. Victimhood doesn't just happen to people. It seduces them. It offers protection. It offers sympathy. It even offers identity. And for many, that trade feels worth it. So let's talk about the seduction of victimhood and why it quietly kills potential. First, let's separate something important. Real injustice exists. Real trauma exists. Real disadvantage exists. This is not about denying suffering. This is about what happens next. Because after pain, you have two psychological paths. One is to integrate the experience and reclaim agency, and two is to build an identity around the wound. And identity is powerful. Once you identify as a victim, the world becomes organised around that lens. So why is victimhood so attractive? Well, let's be honest, there are a few of them. Well, one is it removes responsibility. If it's their fault, you don't have to change. Number two is it provides moral superiority. If you were wronged, you are now righteous. Number three is it guarantees sympathy. Pain attracts attention. Number four is it simplifies complexity. Life becomes a story of oppressor and oppressed. Clear roles, clear villains, no ambiguity, and humans crave certainty. Blame feels powerful. When you assign fault externally, you protect your ego internally. Responsibility is heavy. Blame is relieving. That's why outrage spreads so easily. It gives emotional stimulation without requiring introspection. And in a world amplified by social media, victim narratives are rewarded. Attention is currency, and victimhood can become a brand. Here's where it becomes dangerous. When pain becomes identity, healing becomes threatening. Because if you're no longer the victim, who are you? Identity built on suffering creates unconscious resistance to growth. Growth would mean losing the narrative, and narratives give meaning. Psychologist Martin Seligman studied a phenomenon called learned helplessness. When individuals experience repeated negative events that they cannot control, they eventually stop trying, even when escape becomes possible. They internalize powerlessness. Now apply that socially. If someone repeatedly tells themselves, the system is against me, people like me never win, it doesn't matter what I do, eventually effort declines, agency shrinks, and stagnation feels rational. Victimhood may protect your ego, but it destroys your leverage, because power begins with ownership, even partial ownership, even in unfair situations. There is always a variable within your control. Your skill, your discipline, your emotional regulation, your strategy, your response. The moment you reclaim one variable, you step out of hopelessness. Victimhood doesn't feel like weakness. It feels justified, it feels accurate, it feels moral. And that's what makes it seductive. You can be intelligent, articulate, educated, and still unconsciously use victimhood to avoid evolution. Because evolution requires confronting this question: what part of this is me? And that question is uncomfortable. So strength is not pretending you weren't hurt. Strength is refusing to let hurt define your ceiling. You can say, that was unfair, without concluding, so I am powerless. The first is truth, the second is surrender. Power is control over response. And when you own your response, you regain authorship. When you blame exclusively, you outsource authorship. And outsourced authorship means outsourced destiny. So here's a brutal reflection. We need to ask ourselves, where do I blame more than I build? Where do I complain more than I adapt? Where do I seek sympathy instead of skill? Be honest. Because everyone has a domain where they default to victim thinking. Whether it's relationships or business, health, money, family, past trauma. The question is not whether you've been wronged. The question is whether you are building from it. So moving beyond victimhood requires 3 shifts. Well, one is radical ownership. Even if it's 10% yours, own the 10%. Skill acquisition. Power increases with competence. And then identity reconstruction. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, who can I become because of this? That reframing is transformational. Because victimhood seeks validation. Ownership seeks expansion. One gives you comfort, one gives you leverage. And leverage compounds. You cannot control the hand you were dealt, but you are responsible for how you play it. And that responsibility is not a burden, it's freedom. Victimhood is seductive because it feels safe. Responsibility is powerful because it feels heavy. But the life you want sits on the other side of that weight. So the next time you feel wronged, pause. Ask yourself, am I protecting my ego or building my future? Because one keeps you seen, the other makes you unstoppable. If you like this episode, don't forget to comment, follow, like and subscribe. And just a quick shout out to our sponsors. Strong Coffee Company, protein-packed coffee for energy and clarity. Use code Vancrux1 for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com. And then we have More Labs, clinically proven hydration and recovery drinks. Use code Vancrux1 for 25% off at morelabs.com. And finally, liquor gummies, electrolytes and vitamins for hangover prevention. Use code Vancrux1 for 20% off at liquor.com. That's liquure.com.